In the early hours of August 5, 1962, Marilyn Monroe was found dead in her Los Angeles home. The official cause? A probable overdose of barbiturates. But from the very beginning, the details surrounding her death never fully added up. The case was rushed, the scene appeared staged, and witness accounts changed over time. Yet one question has haunted investigators and conspiracy theorists for decades. Who was the last person she spoke to? That answer remained hidden for over 60 years, until government files were quietly declassified in 2006. According to these documents, Marilyn's final phone call wasn't random or accidental. It was with someone closely tied to Robert F. Kennedy, the U.S. Attorney General at the time. This wasn't just any name in her contact list. It was someone directly connected to one of the most powerful families in American history. And it wasn't the only connection she had. For years, rumors swirled that Marilyn Monroe had romantic ties to both President John F. Kennedy and his brother Robert. Friends, bodyguards, and even members of her own staff confirmed she had been emotionally involved with both men in the final year of her life. These weren't tabloid fantasies. They were real and potentially dangerous. Because when you get close to powerful men, you often hear things you're not supposed to. Sources have long speculated that Marilyn knew details about sensitive political matters, discussions she may have overheard in moments of vulnerability or trust. Whether it was about Cuba, organized crime, or internal government conflicts, she allegedly wrote everything down in a private diary that has never been found. That made her a liability. The FBI had already opened a surveillance file on her. She was viewed not as an actress or public figure, but as a possible national security risk. And in the context of the Cold War, with public image and political control at stake, risks like that weren't tolerated for long. So when you consider who she called last, and who might have had something to lose if she decided to speak out, the story of Marilyn Monroe's death starts to look less like a tragic overdose and more like a calculated silencing. As Marilyn Monroe's fame reached its peak, she also became a subject of intense government scrutiny. FBI and CIA files, declassified years after her death, confirmed that Monroe was being monitored in the final stretch of her life. Her growing political associations, especially her close ties to John F. Kennedy and Robert F. Kennedy, had raised serious concerns. But it wasn't just about who she was connected to. Marilyn was outspoken in her support for civil rights and was often surrounded by progressive thinkers. In the Cold War climate of the early 1960s, that alone was enough to get someone on a watch list. But for Monroe, the risk was even greater. She had access to private conversations, knew intimate details about powerful men, and according to some reports, even threatened to speak out. That combination made her more than a celebrity. It made her a perceived threat to national security. Intelligence agencies kept tabs on her phone calls, her whereabouts, and her relationships. She had crossed a line, and some believe she never got the chance to come back from it. When she died, the official story was quickly released: an overdose of sleeping pills. But what followed only deepened public suspicion. One of the most troubling parts of the case was the inconsistent behavior of those who found her. Marilyn's housekeeper, Eunice Murray, initially claimed she discovered the body early in the morning and called Monroe's psychiatrist, who then alerted the authorities. But over the years, Murray's account changed. In a later interview, she even admitted, "Why, at my age, do I still have to cover this thing?" A statement that many interpreted as a slip, revealing that parts of the story had been intentionally hidden. Even stranger, when police arrived at the scene, Murray was reportedly washing Monroe's bedsheets. Officers noted that the room looked unusually tidy, and some described the people present as acting rehearsed, as if they had been told exactly what to say. These small but chilling details have raised serious questions. If Marilyn's death was truly an accident, why were there so many inconsistencies? And why was someone under surveillance allowed to die under such suspicious circumstances? When Marilyn Monroe's autopsy was completed, the official cause of death was listed as acute barbiturate poisoning. The toxicology report showed extremely high levels of pentobarbital and chloral hydrate in her system, enough to be fatal. But something crucial was missing. Despite the drug levels in her blood, there were no signs of undigested pills in her stomach, no residue, no capsules, nothing. This raised immediate questions. If Marilyn had swallowed the drugs, some physical trace should have been found during the autopsy. But there wasn't. That left only one possibility: those substances were introduced another way. Medical examiners quietly considered alternatives, including injection or even rectal administration through an enema. But for reasons never fully explained, those theories were never officially pursued. No needle marks were noted, no further testing was done, and no investigation into alternate methods was ever opened. It was a crucial gap in the story, one that could have changed the entire conclusion, but instead it was ignored. Like so many other pieces of this case, it was left unexplained and quietly pushed aside. And then there's the diary. According to multiple people close to her, Marilyn Monroe kept a personal journal during the last year of her life. In it, she allegedly recorded private thoughts, daily experiences, and, most importantly, conversations she had with both John and Robert Kennedy. These entries were said to include sensitive information she had overheard during their time together, possibly even details about political affairs or national security matters. But after her death, that diary disappeared. It was never mentioned in the police report. It wasn't cataloged with her belongings, and it's never surfaced in the decades since. Some believe it was taken from her home the night she died, removed before police arrived. Others think it was destroyed altogether to protect the people mentioned in it. If the diary really did exist, it could have revealed everything Marilyn knew and confirmed what so many have suspected for years: that her death wasn't just tragic, it was intentional. One missing notebook, one ignored piece of forensic evidence, and one unanswered question. If there was nothing to hide, why did so much go missing? To understand what really happened to Marilyn Monroe, you have to go back to where it all began. Long before she was a global icon, Marilyn was just Norma Jean, a child born into chaos. Her early life was marked by instability, trauma, and abandonment. She spent her childhood in a series of foster homes, never staying in one place for long. She suffered emotional and physical abuse and at times felt completely invisible. One of her earliest memories, she later said, was of her mother trying to smother her with a pillow. That kind of trauma doesn't disappear. It follows you. It shapes how you see the world and how you let others treat you. For Marilyn, it created a deep need for love, validation, and safety. Unfortunately, it also made her vulnerable to powerful men who knew exactly how to manipulate that need. Hollywood was no better. As her fame grew, Marilyn was locked into a very specific image: the bubbly, naive, hyper-feminine blonde bombshell. It made her a star, but it also became a prison. Studios refused to see her as anything more than a sex symbol. Despite her intelligence, her love for literature, and her desire to be taken seriously as an actress, she was constantly pushed back into the same shallow roles. When she tried to speak up, to renegotiate her contracts, or take on more serious projects, she was labeled difficult. She was trying to escape the image they built for her, but Hollywood wasn't interested in who she really was. They just wanted the brand. Behind the scenes, Marilyn was fighting a quiet battle. She suffered from endometriosis, a painful and poorly understood condition at the time, which left her in constant physical pain and ultimately robbed her of the chance to become a mother. Alongside that, she battled severe anxiety, depression, and insomnia. The solution? Prescription drugs. A lot of them. Doctors connected to studios routinely prescribed sleeping pills, barbiturates, and amphetamines to keep her functional. Over time, she became dependent on them. And some believe that dependency was used against her, because if someone wanted to eliminate her without raising suspicion, there was no better setup. Marilyn's addiction, her mental health struggles, and her public image all made it easy to frame her death as just another celebrity tragedy. But what if it wasn't? What if her trauma, her silence, and even her addiction weren't just unfortunate details, but part of a much larger cover-up? By the final year of her life, Marilyn wasn't just a movie star. She was someone who had gotten too close to dangerous information. Her connections to John F. Kennedy and Robert F. Kennedy placed her in rooms where powerful conversations happened. She may have heard things about politics, national security, or personal secrets that couldn't risk being exposed. And she wasn't keeping it to herself. Friends claimed she was planning to hold a press conference. Others said she was writing everything down in a diary that mysteriously vanished the night she died. Her housekeeper's story changed. The scene of her death appeared staged. The autopsy didn't make sense, but still, the official story stayed the same: overdose. Case closed. Why? Because the people involved had the power to bury the truth. And they did. Marilyn Monroe wasn't just a victim of addiction or fame. She was a woman who knew too much, who had been manipulated for years, and who finally became a threat to the very people who once protected her. And when the risk, they silenced her permanently. Her story wasn't just about tragedy. It was about control. And the effort to erase the truth shows exactly how far that control extended.